All right, so I am here with Eric Lang and Michael Shinall, designers of the new Song of Ice and Fire tabletop miniatures game, which just wrapped up its Kickstarter.
Hello.
And so at Gen Con, we actually have it here, its own section where people are able to get their hands on the game, experience it, and I believe we even have some of the plastics for the demos.
We do.
Some of the early production plastics, the first spin of them.
Yep.
That's awesome. So they're kind of getting a look at what it's going to be like in April 2018 when it first released. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is the approach you guys took to this game and what you want to do in a market where there are other tabletop miniature games. Like, what was your thinking on this one?
Wait, there are other miniature games?
So no, I just... Oh, okay. So in a market that has never had a tabletop miniature game, what was your approach to make this one unique in the void?
Well, I mean, this game is, we want to go a little bit broader, right? And give people an opportunity to approach the game with a little bit of a board game sensibility. So like, when I came on the project, Michael already worked on the game for like a year. He'd made this really tight, streamlined, super accessible miniature game. What we want to do is make it, sort of take it to the next level, make it add a bit of board game twist to it, right? So like, it's the Song of Ice and Fire universe. There's not only are you fighting on the field, there's politics going on in the background.
So one of the biggest approaches, actually, you can see from the philosophy of making the game is actually how we did the starter box to basically make it a complete package in a box. So while we are listing it as the Stark vs. Lannister starter set, really someone can pick this up and have the complete experience, because in the box alone, you're going to get variable army configurations, enough points to actually change things around. You don't have to play with everything just to barely meet those points. We've got 5 different game modes, which are one of the biggest draws of the game. So even in just the starter box alone, you're going to have 5 different ways to play the game, different scenarios, if you will. They're going to drastically change how you play each time. So even if you're playing the same army, and again, we're giving you permutations where you can change what you're playing every time, you can take the same army and play one of those 5 different modes, and it's going to change your experience. You might be sieging a castle, you might be trying to hold points across the battlefield, you might be working your way through giant corpse piles as they're appearing, as the dead start mounting up. Just really evocative of a Song of Ice and Fire.
Right. Well, also, even within each game mode, there's maximum replayability too, right? Like for the Game of Thrones game mode, where you're holding different hotspots on the map, they are represented by cards, and you're only playing with half of the cards in the deck. So every time you play it, it will be very unique.
So I think the game modes are actually really important and special in this game, because it is targeting people who maybe are new to tabletop miniature games, while also bringing in the crowd from the other non-existent tabletop miniature games in the market. That's a callback to the earlier joke. But what's cool about that is, like you said, I think for me, who comes from a board gaming background, it helps give you that little bit of direction in your game mode. So whether it is, like you said, holding off the siege on your castle, or climbing over corpse piles, just in the average day in Westeros.
For kids.
Yeah, for kids. What's also neat about it is that it's the single piece plastics, which is great.
Correction there. They're not single-piece plastics. They are pre-assembled, and that is a major difference. Since what we're doing on this one is, like, the bodies are PVC plastic, but any type of, like, spears, swords, any basic thing that could bend or break is instead done in ABS hard plastic.
Right. So, you're right, because the pre-assembled actually allowed us to do a lot more kind of unique poses, and, like you said, made it so those weapons are not going to have that weird droopy sword effect, right? Which is always kind of disappointing when you have all your guys out there and you're sitting there and it's like, oh, my halberd is now at a 90-degree angle.
It's very sad halberd.
Right, it's a sad halberd.
Nobody likes droopy halberds.
Right. So that is really cool, and I think, they kind of are skewed on their colors on the factions, so even if you don't want to paint them right out of the box, it's just ready to go.
Yep.
So that's really cool. To wrap this up, do you each have like a favorite aspect of the game?
The corpse piles.
Are you on corpse piles?
I'm. You know what? I'm with you on the corpse piles. I guess my favorite aspects, honestly, is the way. It's not a particular mechanic, but it's the way the game draws your attention. Mm-hmm. At all points in the game, you have to be focusing on what do you need to do. Like, you desperately want to go activate any one of your units in order to race an opponent to either an objective or control point, or to beat them in tempo, or you need to use a non-combat unit in order to use an exclusive political action, or you need, well, and of course you have to pick between whether you want to score points for your objectives or score points for just killing people. I personally like killing people, especially Michael.
I think actually you touch on something important is being a Song of Ice and Fire, it pulls in the political side because that battles are not just fought on the field in the books, right? So this game, you guys managed to make it so you have these non-combat characters who are affecting that battles in different ways. So I think that's really cool. And you're still Corpse Piles?
So actually my favorite mechanic is the commander mechanic. So basically just by switching out your commander, say Robb Stark to Great John Umber to Ned Stark, you drastically change how your army plays. So I can even take the same units that I have, and just by changing that one piece of my army, change my entire play style and everything. And to me, that's actually my favorite aspect, is just trying out the different combinations that you might have there between commanders and units.
So that's awesome. Thank you for joining us. The Song of Ice and Fire tabletop miniature game. It's coming out April 2018. We're going to have monthly releases into retail, organized play, and I think we can say that there'll be plenty to come. And I think even at Gen Con we had a few snippets of models that weren't even on the Kickstarter.
Some that weren't Stark or Lannister. Who'd have thunk?
Uh-oh.
The world's a big place.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Ciao.